But here we go. So good afternoon, everyone. We are currently, well, I'm basically going to be talking about something very special and different here. So just to introduce myself, I'm Christine Malazarte, and I am currently the chapter director of Women on Wheels Orange County Spirit Riders, which we are proud to say, and sometimes embarrassed at times, to say that we are the last chapter in the state of California for Women on Wheels. That just means that we hold the fort. You know, we are the ambassadors for women's motorcycling in Southern California and in the state when possible. And we just do our best to ensure that we maintain a good representation of women riders, regardless of what they ride, where they come from, and who they hang out with. You know, we are just here to promote safe riding and, you know, connect people who have the same interests, which is really why, you know, women motorcyclists stay together, is because, well, you know, the stuff is cool. So you want to hang out, right? So that's just what you do. Anyway, for today's, this is a lecture. Now, a little background about me is I do work in higher education, and in one place I help professors do online courses, and in other places I teach my own. And so the lecture format is not new to me. And today I'm going to talk about something that actually I have another experienced rider in the audience today, and we're going to be talking about how to get started with long distance riding. This is something we like to call the Iron Butt. Now, Iron Butt, I know it's a funny name, right? I've actually talked to people and they've asked me, so what do you do for fun on a motorcycle? Do you like go to bars? Do you go on long trips? Do you do whatever? And I said, I do Iron Butt rides, and I have to define this. And Iron Butt is actually a term. It was coined by an organization, an actual organization that's based out of Illinois called the Iron Butt Association. Or if you, abbreviate association, well, I'm not going to repeat that, but you get the idea. Just a lot of, lots of buttocks fortitude when it comes to getting around and doing that kind of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and let's get started, because this is what we do. So welcome to Iron Butt 101. Hey, Carly, can you see this? Look good to you? All right, cool. Well, so this is an absolute basic thing. This is my chance to tell you that if you are a person who likes to do a lot of miles in a single day, there is a chance that you can get a certificate for it. But not just that. It's also, why do you do it? You know, it's like when people talk about, oh yeah, I was in a 12-hour drive in a car, and I drove from here to Oregon in a single day. It's like, you know, you could do the same thing on a bike, right? I mean, most people don't think that way, because when you think of a motorcycle, you know, you're out in the open, everything's exposed, and then you're just trying to get from point A to point B, and that's just what you do. But sometimes point A to point B isn't necessarily close together. Sometimes you have to take an occasional side trip to point C, D, E, F, and go down the alphabet, right? Well, for the people who like to do things in very short periods of time, or like to challenge themselves in the ways that they never thought they could, this is the Iron Butt is for you. So just a little introduction here. You're going to see that there's a number right next to my name. That is my Iron Butt Association number. Yes. If you finish at least one ride with the Iron Butt Association, you're a member for life. There are no dues or anything like that. And that is my number for the Iron Butt Association. Since then, there have been probably another, 50,000 people after me who have received their number to do this. I first got my first certified ride. Well, I'll tell a little bit more about that, but I've had this one for a while. So we'll discuss. So what are we discussing? Well, first off, the picture of me right there is from the last destination that I was at for the last Iron Butt that I did, which was actually before the pandemic. So the last Iron Butt I did was in June 2019. And that blockbuster is the one in Bend, Oregon, is the absolute last blockbuster on the entire planet. Yes, it is still open. You can go get DVDs. They don't have VHSs anymore, unfortunately, but when you walk in, it actually smells like 1998 in there. It's great. Okay, so it's pretty cool. If you're in the Bend, Oregon area, definitely something that I would recommend you visiting. So what are we discussing? Well, first off, I'm going to talk about why I got into this. It actually was kind of an accident. But at the same time, I realized that I was capable of doing something I thought I would never be able to do. Next thing we'll talk about is why long distance riding and why you do it. I did touch on the Iron Butt Association. I'm going to go into that a little further. The types of rides that you could do under the Iron Butt Association. And then going, okay, this is interesting. Now, how do I do one? That's the next part of this. And then some short blurbs on preparing your bike, because that's important, but also preparing yourself as well, because Iron Butt rides are not only a physical, it is physically grueling, it's also mentally grueling. And when you have everything in a row and you're able to just focus, and it's not just focusing, I mean, I'm trying to be simple here, but just having everything all put together, you can do these things. And of course, there's room for questions and answers if we have any questions from our audience member. Yes, hi. So the question I have is, how did I get into this? So picture that you see here is my 2007 FJR 1300. Most of my friends know it as Eleanor. Actually, for amusement purposes, I'm gonna draw something on here. If you're gonna see right there, just as a joke, there is a circle right there. And what happened was that used to be a cup holder, and that thing fell off somewhere in Eastern Oregon. Now, it's a cup holder that's made by a company called Ram Mount, which is in Washington State. Anyway, right after I completed my ride, I sent a warranty claim out and told them that it fell off during a long distance endurance ride. And within 3 days, I had a brand new cup holder. So Ram Mount is a company that I do use. As you can see here, that's where my phone was mounted. I am a big fan of these guys. I mean, there are other great companies that can hold your mobile devices and your drinks, but Ram Mount is one of my personal favorites. Another good one that I recommend is Quad Lock. That one's pretty cool too. So I just wanted to throw that out there because there's a lot of Easter eggs in my presentation. You know, I love the souvenirs. I'm a big sticker person, especially when they start conversations. And I mean, I did survive along with the last blockbuster. In fact, I still survive now. I'm surprised I still do. So I didn't do too bad myself, right? So yeah. So how did I get into this? Well, I've been in education pretty much since the mid 2000s. And at the beginning of my teaching career, I worked for Los Angeles Unified, and unfortunately, my house at the time, when I was actually living in Orange County at the time, like northern Orange County, to ride into downtown LA, it put me at about a 60 to 80 mile daily commute, and it was with the same bike that you're seeing in this picture. And so I did it primarily with my motorcycle. So I mean, I was used to having to deal with heavy traffic, and my FJR is not a small bike. It's a bike that's actually used as a police bike in Europe. And so it's got the bags, it's got everything, and it'll go. But was so used to just, you know, running it like a two-wheeled car back and forth to work every single day. So like, you know, being on the saddle, 90-degree heat, you know, traffic, lots of braking, lots of stopping, lots of lane splitting, all that stuff, you know, pretty much navigating through a forest fire of the freeways, you know, the 110, 105, 605, 57 at times. It just depended on where I was going after work. Yeah, it was a lot. So what would happen is I was a teacher back at LA Unified, and that means you get your summers off, technically. And so what I would do is during these summers is that I would go on these long trips. I would travel to what we call the Women on Wheels ride-in. The latest one just ended last week. And the Women on Wheels ride-in is pretty much the annual get-together for the entire organization, and it changes locations every year. So at the times I was going, my first one was in 2007. That was in Springfield, Missouri, and then 2008 was in Texas. 9 was in Michigan. 10 was in Vermont. 11 was back in California. Like, it was a lot of things like that. And so they changed locations every single year. And until 2013, so from 2007 to 2013, with the exception of one ride-in and during that streak, I was able to ride my motorcycle every single year, regardless of where the location was. It was nice being free, but you know, that part of the teaching life didn't last too long. So, you know, I just kind of had to adjust and pivot from there. Anyway, so how did this all get started? Well, 2008, I was coming back from Texas. I did this huge loop that also involved Ohio somehow and a bunch of other states around. And I came back into Texas from the east side rather than coming straight from LA. Anyway, I hung out in Texas, and that year I did win a couple awards for like highest mileage for that year. And I was still the youngest rider, at least until 2011. I know, go figure. Actually, no, 2011 was the last year I was named youngest rider at the ride-in until one of the children of one of the WOW members actually took my spot, which I was fine with because you can't stay young forever. But it's okay. Even though you don't stay young forever, the toys just get bigger, and just remember that. So what had happened was I was coming back from, what is it called? It was Kerrville, Texas. And I stayed a night in Roswell, New Mexico. And what had happened was I left early in the morning out of Roswell with the intention of eventually possibly just staying overnight in maybe Flagstaff, Arizona, and then just riding all the way home. And it was hot, it was decently hot. Well, anyway, I just started riding, just gassed up, packed everything, and everything, and just started riding. And I realized that by 10 a.m., I was already in Albuquerque. Like when I got out of Roswell, Albuquerque was like a 2-hour ride. And I realized, so I looked it up, and back then, 2008, smartphones were relatively brand new. So, I mean, I did have data, but it was like in Google Maps was still kind of in its infancy and things like that. And I realized, you know what, if I calculated this right, I'm less than 1,000 miles from home. And I could do this. And so I did. I just rode, and I passed Flagstaff. I found his results on Thursday. Yeah, and my Google is listening to me right now. But I just started riding, and I just kept riding, and I made it back to LA, to LAX for that matter. And when I got there, I had realized I had only ridden for 17 hours. It was a straight shot. I just didn't even think about it. I'm on the 10, or was I on the 10? I was on the 10 for a little while, and then I zipped up to the 40. And yeah, it was pretty insane, but I did it. And I realized, wait a minute, that was an Iron Butt ride. That was 1,000 miles in less than 24 hours. So then why can't I just make it official? Well, we fast forward in time to 2010. And by that time I had moved out of state from California. I was in Ohio. And I just decided to give it a shot and do it. And I did make it Iron Butt official in 2010. I did a SaddleSore ride, which was a loop, because SaddleSores or any of these rides can be done either in a loop or in a one-way direction, or multiple stops, make it work. And yeah, I started in Columbus, Ohio, and had lunch in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and then came back up in a different direction. And I finished that ride in about 21 hours. Now, yeah, so how is it that my first official ride ended in 21 hours, but my first unofficial did in 17? Big thing. There's a factor called weather. I was rained on in 3 straight states. I basically was swimming while I was riding. That's called multitasking. And so that's the reason why 21 hours later, I did get it, and I earned it, and I have it. So it's all good. Sometimes you just got to go through it. And as part of that whole mental challenge, when it comes to doing long distance rides like this is the kind of stuff that you'll end up coming across. And there were a couple of other attempts that I did in 2011 I'll talk about that didn't end up panning out, but I still ended up making a good ride out of it. So we'll go from there. So like I said, reasons why: long days on the saddle. With the subsequent jobs that I had, leaving the teaching industry for a little while, all of my off time was unpaid. I was an hourly employee. I didn't accrue vacation or any sort of sick time. I couldn't use any of it. So when I wanted to take a week off, that meant that I had to take a dunk and pay. So I learned how to ride hard and ride fast because I couldn't afford it. I know it's a really weird thing to say, but I couldn't even afford to take a vacation. So I decided to make a vacation out of it by turning it into a crazy adventure. Don't recommend it for everyone, but it worked for me. So since 2008, I've completed 5 of these rides and one unofficial SS1000, the SaddleSore, which is the one, the accidental one from New Mexico. So of those 5 rides, 3 of them are SaddleSore 1000s. One of them is a Bun Burner 1500, and I'll go through these terms later. And the number 1 is the longest one I've ever done so far, a SaddleSore 2000, which is 2,000 miles in 48 hours. And we'll go, like I said, I will explain all this. All right. Let me go ahead. So why long distance riding? And in this picture here, I think I'm somewhere in Oregon or Nevada. I forget. I think we had just this was with my riding partner for the last Iron Butt ride that I did. His name's Edwin. He was riding a V-Strom 650 at the time, and I just had that fun picture. And yeah, we definitely been where we were way past Winnemucca when we did this one. So long distance riding, why do it? It's crazy, right? Everyone says it's crazy. It's not crazy until you do it, right? You know, well, first off, you learn more about yourself. You learn about what you're capable of doing when you're on a motorcycle and not in a car, because anybody can drive a car. Of course, not everyone can drive a car a long time, but you know, car navigation and motorcycle navigation are two different animals. You're still operating a vehicle, but under a lot of different other conditions. Next thing too is that you'll learn more about your bike and what it's capable of, which is important. And this is my own opinion, but if I'm going to get to someplace far away, then why not do it on a motorcycle? It's a lot more fun that way. So there are many reasons why people long distance ride. These are my reasons, or at least a few of them. Well, at least that can fit on this slide, but you know, no one's going to really care about the 6-hour drive that you had up to San Francisco unless it was on a bike, because people make that drive all the time, but not everybody does it on a motorcycle. So just something to set you apart from everyone else. If I was going to throw another bullet, if you care what other people think of you. So, which I don't, but I like to put it out there. So why the Iron Butt Association, or what is the Iron Butt Association that I keep talking about? So the Iron Butt Association is an international organization, and their whole thing is safe long distance motorcycle riding, or at least riding within the parameters of what you consider to be safe, because that's always a open to interpretation thing. In terms of the Iron Butt, there's over 80,000 members. I mentioned my Iron Butt number at the beginning of this presentation, which is in the 44,000s. So I'm somewhere in the middle of the existence of this. And it's really easy to join. There's no sign up. You come in, you follow the directions to turn in the proper paperwork for an official ride, and you're in. I mean, yes, there's a fee and stuff, you know, to process your stuff, but you know, you don't sign up, you earn your place here. So that's a big thing. And then you have and then for the crazy ones, and I say crazy in comparison to me, which is extremely crazy, because according to a few sources, I'm certified insane by at least 6 independent parties, like the last time I checked, right? But there's something called the Iron Butt Rally, which also just completed less than a month ago, I think about 3 weeks ago. And this is the one where if a SaddleSore 1000 is 1,000 miles in 24 hours, this one is a minimum of 1,000 miles a day for 11 straight days. And it's a lottery based. It's done biannually. So 2021 was the last one, and then 2023 was this one. And now they're going to be setting up for the rally in 2025. So you have like 2 years. It's like the Olympics. You're setting up to compete in this one event. So if you look at the bottom of here, there's a picture of me with a lovely lady here who also rides an FJR. Okay, she goes by the name of Wendy Crockett. Yes. And for those who are listening in today and know who this is, yeah, that Wendy Crockett. So Wendy Crockett became the first woman to win the Iron Butt Rally in 2019. She destroyed all the dudes. Now, if there's anyone who can be a hero on a motorcycle and be a woman hero on a motorcycle, that's one of them. There's quite a few, but she's added herself to the list. And her weapon of choice is a 2005 Yamaha FJR. The fun story about this picture is that this was the International Motorcycle Show in Long Beach back in, I believe, 2019, like the same year. And I was just hanging out with some friends that I knew from Women on Wheels who were in this booth area. And there's Wendy Crockett. And I remember seeing her, and, you know, I don't personally know her, but I looked at her and I said, hey, a fellow FJR rider. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth. And it was crazy to think that I'm here sitting with standing next to one of the hardest riders that I've ever met in my life, who makes dudes look silly. And there were people at this event just passing by her as if she was just nothing. And it was like, I mean, I understand, you know, you don't understand the Iron Butt, but with the people who know, it's one of those, if you know, you know. And the cool thing is that if you're an Iron Butt rally finisher, and I actually know another finisher as well, you earn a number through the Iron Butt Association. It is not a 5-digit number. It's a 3-digit number if you earn it. So, and I also had another friend who passed away back in 2018 who had a 2-digit number. Yeah, I had I knew some pretty legendary women who rode this and did this. And it was just really cool to know people like that. So yeah, that's just a little fun anecdote. 2024 for me personally will be my 20th year of riding a motorcycle. And I'll tell you, in 20 years that I've done this, having worked in the industry, met multiple women, dozens of women, hundreds of women, I guess, you know, through and riders through my work in actual corporate retail and as a motorcycle enthusiast and through organizations like Women on Wheels. I mean, all the people I've met in the last 20 years, I mean, I would not give up my ability to ride a motorcycle for the world. And I'm really glad that I can still do it. So I'm glad I can even just do this presentation regardless of who's listening right now. So it's a lot of fun. And I can talk about this for hours. I mean, hell, I can talk about this like to myself for hours because of how many cool things that I've learned and experienced because of stuff like this. So anyway, I was going to go into the types of rides. I think that picture is pretty self-explanatory. Story goes is that I like state line signs, like when I cross into another state, and I usually do something silly. And one of the things that I used to say, because I lived in a state that was Ohio, basically. It was where helmet laws were optional if you're over 18 and have at least 1 year of motorcycle experience. And I used to get like ragged on a lot for wearing a helmet, even in the hottest weather in Ohio. And it was really ironic because I was a helmet salesperson at a retail store in Ohio. It was like one of my jobs, and I considered one of the toughest jobs if you're working in the motorcycle industry in Ohio is trying to sell a helmet to somebody. You know, out here in California, we snap it up. Number one, because most of us aren't stupid to not wear a helmet, but also because it's a mandatory state law. But I've often said, because when people ask me, why do you wear a helmet? I can't tell them that it's for my safety, because they don't care. It's not for safety. You know, there's so many myths running around in regards to helmet, you know, helmet statistics and stuff like that. And this is not a soapbox post. It's just from personal experience. And, you know, there's obvious data that shows that there is a correlation between not wearing a helmet and a spike in head injuries. Just saying. So usually the reason why I would tell them why I wear a helmet is, well, I do a lot of long distance riding and I cross a lot of states, and many of those states, you can cross one state that doesn't have a helmet law and then you cross into a state with it. So I do it to save time because I would have to stop at the state line in order to put my helmet on. Now, true story, I actually witnessed someone doing that. I was in Ohio, and this was before Michigan repealed their helmet law, because they did repeal it. And then lo and behold, the number of head injuries spiked up. I wonder why. I have no idea how that happened. But what happened was, when Michigan still had a mandatory helmet law, I remember following someone in a car. Like, I was in the car because I was transporting something. And there was a dude who was not wearing a helmet. We were on the Ohio side on US 23 going northbound. He's going up and sees the Welcome to Michigan sign, comes to a complete stop. And I'm watching him dismount so that he can unhook the helmet that he had on the back of his bike, so that he could get it. I'm like, by the time you do that, I'm already halfway to Ann Arbor. Like, what's wrong with you? But that's just me. So going back to, I digress because I can. I like helmets. Helmets make me not dead or faster. And also if you've ever taken some sort of hornet or bee or anything to the face, you know how much that shit hurts. Okay. So I just strongly recommend you put something on your face, preferably maybe something that could help with a potential, slight impact. Just saying, I'm not here to preach safety. I'm just here to talk about motorcycling, right? Is that how that works? So anyway, back to the types of IBA rides. There's just a few of them. The most basic one that you need to be able to qualify is a SaddleSore 100. It's the one 1000. I mean, it's the one that you need to join the IBA. It's 1,000 miles in 24 hours or less. With good weather and a good average speed, you can usually finish this anywhere between 16 to 18 hours more than enough time to take your time to go to the restroom and eat a lunch and do all the things. You just have to maintain your time. And that comes with practice. But this one here is pretty standard. You could do it. The next one is the Bun Burner 1500. So if you really want to do basically the equivalent of a 1.5, it's 1500 miles in 36 hours or less. So it's like, well, duh. You add another 500 miles, you add another 12 hours. Very basic, right? Now, there's a couple that would be considered extreme rides because they're doable, but you know, there's not as much of a margin for error. And these are the ones that get interesting. One of them is called the Bun Burner 1500 Gold. So there's a 1500 regular, which is actually now called a Bun Burner Silver the last time I checked. But it's basically the 1500 miles, but you got to do it in the same time frame as a SaddleSore 1000. So 1524. A little different, right? I've calculated it. If you maintain anywhere between 60 to 65 miles an hour for the 24 straight hours, you'll actually make it. Story goes is in 2011, I attempted this ride and everything was fine until I got to Nebraska and a tornado warning, and I realized it wasn't worth it. So because of that, I ended up getting the Bun Burner regular, the silver. But I'm hoping in 2024 that I will reattempt, hopefully with the weather being fine and no weird things on the highway. I'm going to reattempt the Bun Burner 1500 Gold from Los Angeles to Rapid City, South Dakota. That's about a 1500 mile trip if you tweak it enough. There's other ones like the SaddleSore 2000, which was the one that I completed in 2011 as well, and a SaddleSore 3000 and a 4000. So basically what you do is every time you add 1,000 miles, you add another 24 hours. And then the Iron Butt Rally is 1111. Yeah, 11,000 in 11 days minimum. Some people have actually pushed that envelope and done far more than 11,000. But you know, that comes with practice because it's a marathon, not a sprint. There's some other ones like the Coast to Coast. This one's a very common one. If you're tuning in, I live 15 miles from Santa Monica. Santa Monica is the absolute terminus of Interstate 10 on the west side. If you started in Santa Monica and took 10 all the way across, you'll end up in Jacksonville, Florida. That is a ride if you can complete it in 50 hours or less. So there's one for you too. And then some other fun ones if you're really good with your mapping, because you know map planning is a part of this whole puzzle that you do to make this happen, is a 4810. That's all 48 states, touching them, border, like going into the states, touching them in 10 days. That's the 48 contiguous in North America. It's been done, believe me. I mean, I wish I had the time to do that, or at least I had the planning to do that. That's insane. But then again, you know, to be insane, as I learned from somebody, to be insane, you must have discipline. So we'll go from there. Other types of rides, there's some themed ones. You can, like, for example, I think there was one called an ice cream ride. There are some other ones that are fun. National park rides. And also, if you live outside of the United States, you can actually do rides, the same kind of distance rides, except they measure it in kilometers instead. So instead of a SaddleSore 1000, it's called a SaddleSore 1600K because that equates to approximately 1,000 miles. So yeah, for all you Canadians out there, eh, you could do it. So how do you complete an Iron Butt certified ride? Well, first off, you have to plan a route that's at least 1,000 miles in total. For extra insurance, you probably want to go at least 50 miles over just to be safe. Okay. It could be either one way or round trip. What you're seeing to your right there is a screenshot of the ride I did in June of 2019, which ended up being a one-way. And the reason why it turns and I enter in on the southeast corner of Oregon is because by doing it the direct way, which is what this piece was right here, I wouldn't have had enough miles to do it. So I actually had to do that in order to make the 1,000, but it was doable. The planning software I used for this, I'm going to have to find it, but it is an iOS program. I did this on my iPad, but that's how I mapped it out. And those were some of the major cities that I crossed off. There's also Winnemucca, which is basically right here, which is Interstate 93, if I recall. It's US 93. Yeah, it's US 93 up here. And by the way, you're going to see something here, Elko, Nevada, which is right over here. This is actually where I finished my SaddleSore 2000 back in 2011. So just a little fun story there. So I've been in Elko before too. So first off, you plan it. And with most of these rides, because you're going for most best use of time, I don't like to use the word speed here. It's best use of time and distance. You're usually using US highway and interstate. You don't do the back road thing. You don't have time for that. Okay. The next thing too is you've got a bunch of forms you got to bring with you. The reason why is because when you start a ride, you have a starting witness that you need to put in. You got to put in your information. And then as you are traveling, you have to provide evidence of your traveling, which comes in the form of gas receipts with a time date stamp that you also have to fill out on a paper too, so that you can verify, everything as you go along. You have to keep that paper stuff in a safe place so that you don't lose that. And you have to record your mileage on those receipts too, so that people can keep track of. This is also to prevent cheating. Okay, most normal motorcycles, if you're riding, you're not going to be exceeding more than 250 to 300 miles per tank. I say 300 on the far side because Iron Butt Association does allow a maximum of an 11-gallon total fuel capacity for your motorcycle, which also, because a lot of people who do these competitively will usually put an auxiliary gas tank in addition to their motorcycle to meet that 11-gallon maximum. I mean, considering the bike that I currently have right now, which has a 5-gallon, for most normal people, you can complete this without having to modify your bike for extra fuel. And also because, honestly, we all still have to pee. Okay, after about 150 miles, I kind of need to use the restroom. So it's not like I'm going to be like, I'm filling up at every stop. I'm not going to mess with that. I need a receipt anyway, so it's fine. And then when you finish your ride, you have someone sign off. It could be someone at the gas station, or it could be your friend that's meeting you there or something like that. And so the fun part is, because we ended at the Blockbuster Video and my friend and I got there at 8:30 p.m., 30 minutes before they closed for the night, I had a Blockbuster Video employee sign our witness slip. It was really cool. I was hoping I would get the manager, but I asked the dude, I was like, hey, is your manager in? Because I told him what we were doing. And he goes, unfortunately, she left like 15 minutes ago. And I was like, dang it. So, but it's okay. He was really cool about it. And he thought it was really cool that we came all the way from Los Angeles to go there to finish a crazy ride. And I said, well, we'll be back tomorrow because I have a bunch of friends who were asking me to buy merch for them. So once you've done all of this and you get home and you relax and, take all your painkillers and everything when you're all done, because it was tiring. It was 1 day up and 2 days down. So, I did a lot of time for this. I mean, this was right after I graduated with my master's degree. So this was like my celebratory ride. If you call this a celebration, to me, it was. Okay. You fill out the rest of the paperwork and then you send it in to Iron Butt Association. You get it approved. You get a cool certificate, and then you rinse and repeat and you do this again. That's basically how all of this gets done. For the people who do a lot of these rides, there is a more streamlined version of like how to submit this stuff. There's actually a membership you can get into. But since I don't do these as frequently, I just do it the old fashioned way because I don't mind waiting a month for my certificate. It doesn't bother me. It's like, okay, I did it. Yay me. I just need the paper now, which is basically my journey through my master's degree in about one sentence. But anyway, that's basically that. So how do you complete? That's how you do it. Okay. Well, how am I doing, Carly? You think am I covering my bases here? Cool. Well, sounds good to me. All right. So now the next thing is okay. I just showed you the process on how to get certified. Now the question is, what do I do? I have a bike. How do I get this ready? Like, I have no clue how to get started. Well, here's where you go with trial and error. And trial and error is a beautiful thing. As you know, when you first learned how to ride a motorcycle, you might have taken the safety course. I hope you did. And just like driving a car, you don't get better unless you do it, right? So obviously you have a motorcycle. You want to ride long distance with it. You've really never done it before. So what do? Well, you ride around and you figure out, what are the little things that make me more comfortable on the bike? What are the things I wish I could change on this bike? Huge things, right? For many people, the first thing that goes is your seat. That's the first thing that goes. I will say, as with my FJR, unfortunately, is that's the first thing I did was the seat. I think I put less than 1,000 miles, like less than 1,000 miles on my seat, and I replaced it immediately with a Corbin. Now, Corbin's a great company. I'm a little partial to them. I mean, everyone's got an opinion. Okay. Here's my philosophy on motorcycle accessories. Everyone's got an opinion on them. Somebody may tell you that something's absolute junk, and somebody may swear by it. Figure it out yourself. Try it before you dock it. So some people will say that the key to absolute comfort is a brand new seat. Some people say the key to comfort is throwing a sheepskin on it, gel pad, air hawk, you name it, whatever. Everyone's got an opinion. Try it yourself. Yes, heed advice, but that's not the only answer. There is no right way to fit a bike. There's no right way to fit a bike for absolute comfort, because like what works for me may not work for the next person. You know, we all have different body mechanics. We have different dimensions. We have different things that are possibly, like, some of us may be running with prior injuries, or just things that our body is not capable of doing. Okay. Like, you don't know. So other things like cruise control, or a way to hold that throttle down, because you've got to just keep a constant speed. What is the way your bike does it? What feels better for you? I was crazy, but I was also like in my 20s when I first did these things. But my FJR did not have, I had to install a mechanical cruise control. My bike now, which I'll talk about later, has cruise control built in. So things that have changed over time. Also, handlebars, foot controls, the windshield, lighting. Remember that this is a 101 course, so I'm not really going into these things. Maybe if I get garner of traction, I can do a whole section into lighting and they call it farkles, all the cool things you put on your bike, right? There's, you name it, there's something that exists for somebody because someone thought that it was a good idea for them, and then they marketed it. So research is great, the internet's great, but nothing's going to replace you actually trying this stuff. Don't slap it on like the day before you're going to do your ride and think it's going to work for you. Because there are things that are mainstays in my setup, and there are things that had a one-shot deal and they didn't make the cut. So, you know, don't try anything new prior to a major ride. That's what I like to tell people. Also, speaking of don't try anything new, make sure you get your oil changes and all your services done. You don't want your bike breaking down on you, because that would suck. You come all this way and then you're like, you run short because something dumb happened. Yeah, it's definitely worth it to make sure. Not only that, it's a safety thing. If your tires are like, you got like 500 miles left on those tires, change those things, man. You know, it doesn't make sense. Also, every bike's different. Some bikes love a certain speed. Some bikes buzz a little too much at a certain speed. Some bikes will get a little too hot for your taste, you know? You don't know till you ride. So that is part of that whole preparation thing. Okay. So, and the other questions that I may come across is like, can I do this with a smaller bike? Because I know you talk about your FJR, which is a 1300 cc, 137 power, horsepower bike that weighs like 700 pounds. And I go, yeah, but then again, you take into fact my friend who helped me with this Blockbuster ride, and he's running himself on a 650 V twin. You can do it. You can do it. It's your bike, right? So the next thing is preparing yourself. What happens now? Well, long distance, right? It's not a 100 meter, it's a 1,000 miler. So long distance rides or marathons, they're not sprints. You have to learn how to manage that and build up the tolerance. So how does that work? Well, I used to break down my stuff. If we put in perspective, because I have to put this example in, Carla, because you live in Las Vegas. Okay. It's about 250 miles for me to ride to your house. Okay. That's a quarter butt. And it's one of the most boring sections of I-15. So if I can do that without a problem, I think I'm going to be fine. Okay. And also riding on I-15, what do I deal with? Wind gusts. It's hot AF. Trucks. boredom. Okay. Maybe a coyote. I don't know. People. I don't know, whatever. You got to ride through it. This is how you experience it, you know, and that's how you only get better by riding. Also hydration. I have one of the first pieces of advice that was given to me when I started doing like the long distance trips, but they weren't timed. They were just long, like riding from LA to Missouri, is that it's probably a good idea to have that water bottle strapped to you because you're going to be sipping it while you're riding. My favorite method is a Camelback with ice in it. And I just stick that straw, that nice flexible straw, right under my helmet and just sip while it also helps with boredom. But while I'm riding, I'm drinking. You know, I had another friend who actually lives in Massachusetts and she does long rides too. And she often told me, say, Christine, this is how you know you've drank enough water. When you finally stop, you got to pee. That's how you know you've had enough water in your system and you stay hydrated. Okay. Also, no big meals, snackies. Have that celebratory meal when you're done. You know, but energy bars, protein bars. I like oat bars. Those are my favorite. Also the power chews or any of those hydration things. Yeah. Just try to ease off on the caffeine though. The caffeine is kind of like that whole sprint versus marathon thing. You don't want the caffeine crash when you're in mile 700. Not good. With that being said, getting sleep before you're riding would be very helpful too, because anything that you do in a ride in regards to time or anything like that, it exacerbates further. If you don't get enough sleep, it's even worse. So yeah, I mean, any experienced long distance rider will do that. So make sure that you do get some sleep and sleep when you can. Yeah, even when you're in the middle of that 1,000 miler, if you want to take that 15-minute nap at the rest stop and chill, you can do that. You know, you have enough time. It's fine, you know. The other thing too is gear is everything. You know, one of the people don't realize the advantages that exist when you have clothing that is designed to withstand the elements and also help you manage the effects of those elements. And so that comes with time and trial and error and figuring out what jackets, pants, boots, gloves, series of gloves, the type of helmet you use, all that stuff, that all makes a difference. Heated gear in certain contexts if you need it. I remember when I was finishing my SaddleSore 2000, I did not need it, but I did have an extra layer for a jacket. But I remember waking up in Nebraska and leaving to complete the remainder of my 2000. And it was 45 degrees in the morning going through Wyoming in the middle of July. Like in July, it was 45 in the morning. But then I'm in Nebraska and it's 105 with 95% humidity. You're dealing with everything. And that was less than a matter of 200 miles. So it tells you quite a bit. Soakable cooling vests, packable rain suits. Some of you may never heard of this stuff. They exist. I know rain suits in California. I kind of joke because it's actually hidden in my closet over here. Like I don't think I've busted out my rain suit since I moved back home 10 years ago. I know it's kind of crazy, but it's in a bag. I can pull it out if I had to, right? Also, in a pinch, a rain suit does make a great windproof layer if you end up in something. So just FYI, it's more than for just rain. It's like when umbrellas are used for sunlight. Same idea. But expect if you're traveling at least 500 miles in a single direction, expect at least a 40 to 50 degree fluctuation in temperature in either direction. Here's one for the kicker. Back in April, I rode from LA to Sacramento. It was actually a multi-day thing, so I actually stopped in the Bay Area and then went up to Sacramento. But I'll tell you this, at one point, the highest temperature that I dealt with was 95 degrees. At another point, the lowest temperature I dealt with was 46 degrees with full fog with near zero visibility at 10 feet. So that's a 500, 600 mile run. And I dealt with those extremes. So yeah, be prepared for anything. That whole testing your metal, that's where it is. Okay. So a little bit about the bike, because I have to talk about good old Eleanor. I know for my social media people who have been following me all these years. Yeah, Eleanor's still in the shop. It's been 2.5 years. It's a long story, but I hope to at least finish her mission right now. So Eleanor is my FJR 1300. It's a 2007 California edition standard clutch in that burgundy color. It only came out in that color for 1 year. So it's one of those bikes, you see it, it's an 07, no questions asked. As of right now, and yes, that mileage, that is not a typo. We are currently standing at 219,591 miles on this bike. If for the math geeks and the astronaut geeks out there, the average distance of the Earth to the moon is 238,000 miles. I still have to get her to the moon. I'm less than 19,000 miles short of getting her there. That is something I'd like to do before she officially rides off into the sunset, pun intended. I know she's still got it in her. I just got to get her working again. So some of the mods that I've done with her, and by the way, that picture right there was during the super bloom of 2016, February 2016 in Death Valley. So there's something fun for you. The flowers weren't as plentiful in that little picture, but I still like that picture. It's a nice picture of her. So things that I added to her, for comfort reasons: extended windshield, the Corbin seat, as I mentioned, a top case because I needed to carry a bunch of crap with me, a phone mount, and back then I actually had driving lights to be able to see at night to help me out. They are not installed in this picture, but they were added and then moved over to 2 other bikes. So now the Clearwater Darlas, which I swear by Clearwater lights, they are now on their third bike now. So they just move around. It's just what happens. So where do I go from here? I mentioned that this bike's been down for a while. It's been down since the pandemic. And the good news is I actually have a bike that it has the potential, and I'm going to be sending this one on Iron Butt rides now because it's capable. Many people have completed Iron Butt rides with it. And to be honest, this is a bike I waited 20 years for. So I got to talk about my next Iron Butt bike, which is Tana. And Tana is a 2017 BMW R1200 GS first generation liquid cooled bike. Currently, the mileage is very demonic at 48,666 miles as of today. I actually turned on my odometer before I did this and updated the slide. I had to. And this bike here, as you can see, it's got enough cases. It's got cases for days. One of the other things that I did was, you'll notice that one of my rats, his name's Cappuccino. He's sitting on there. There is no rear passenger seat on the back of that. It is just a plate because I just plan to stick a bag on there and call it a day. Yes, you can do Iron Butt rides with a passenger, but do you really want that kind of like dead weight on the back of your, I mean, I'm divorced. I've had to deal with dead weight, so I'm not a fan of that. Anyway, the Ram X grip still stays because that is a mainstay in my toolbox or a set of accessories for any motorcycle that I own. And remember those Darla lights? Well, there's actually 2 sets of lights on this bike now. And according to Clearwater Lights, I basically strapped on 18,000 additional lumens minimum to this bike. I have blinded people. They get mad when I turn that stuff on, but I'm glad because they can see me now. Yeah. I put these things up to in high beam. I can pretty much roast the retinas off a deer. Unfortunately, I can't cook the deer. That would have been very helpful, especially when, I like food, and venison's great, but, there's that. So that's the next Iron Butt bike. I hope to be able to ride get some miles on Tana that are longer than, so far, the ride to Sacramento was the longest one so far, which was about 1,200 miles. So I know she's up to the task. But in consideration, I am looking at, that is an OEM seat from BMW. I am investigating possibilities. It's not a bad seat, but I wonder what the comparison would be to something like going back to Corbin or another seat maker who can come up with a seat that has slightly denser foam. And also, I did buy this bike used. So there's 48,000 miles on the seat. So, I mean, you can think that, the foam is starting to show its age here. It's starting to get a little long in the tooth. So possibly a refurbishing might be in order before I really throw some miles down. So just some food for thought. With that being said, that's pretty much all I got to talk about when it comes to this this topic. And so, I will leave the floor open for questions and comments regarding this. Maybe I'll get some at the end of this broadcast. I don't know. Obviously, I will find a way to have this available as a replay, and we'll go from there. But obviously, I'm available. You can always ask a question. I'm here to provide more insight into this. One of the reasons why I consider this lecture, this is about the farthest I'll go on a personal lecture, is the fact that, yeah, I may have finished like 5 of these rides myself. But at the same time, though, I know that there are a lot more people who are more experienced than I am, and the methods that I use may not work for some other people. And in addition to that, it's just everyone has an opinion, but at the minimum, I can tell you how to get started because I've gotten started quite a few times with this. So just wanted to put that out there. I know that I have a friend who finished the Iron Butt Rally, and I know that she's given a talk about it. Qualifications, well, and people say, hey, yes, you claim that you've done Iron Butt rides. I said, yeah, there's a master list that's publicly available on the Iron Butt Association's website. And yeah, you can search my name. I appear 5 times. Enjoy. So just saying. But yeah, that's Eleanor over by the Nicasio Creek in Northern California. That is east of Petaluma. Actually, no, west of Petaluma. It's toward it's toward Pacific Coast Highway on the north of San Francisco. Beautiful reservoir. That was from 2017 when I did that ride. For the most part, her appearance doesn't change much between 2017 and now. So I could have told you I did that yesterday. One of the fun modifications I've done here, and I'll just throw it in here because you'll probably see it, is that right here, that is the mechanical cruise control, and right here is actually tennis grip. I took tennis grip and I wrapped my handlebar grips with tennis grip for additional cushion to help dampen the vibration. On my BMW, it's a little fancier. They're grip puppies, which are foam, and they just slide right in. And it's nice because other advantages that I have now with the BMW that I didn't have with the Yamaha, although it does exist in the newer versions of this bike, heated grips. Because I'll tell you, when it's 46 degrees outside and you're traveling at 70 miles an hour, that's cold. The wind chill calendar. If you look up, calculator. If you look up a wind chill calculator from the National Weather Service, yeah, 46 at 70 miles an hour is like low 30s, upper 20s. Okay, that's like sticking your hand in a refrigerator, in a freezer, and leaving it there. Okay, it's not fun. That's why heated grips. Everyone like mocks the heated grips of like, don't knock it till you tried it, man. There's a reason why I can ride in the dead of January and February in San Diego and not care that it's 10 o'clock at night. Oh, 43 degrees, big deal. As long as my hands are warm, I'm good. And then I've got the rest of the boxer engine to protect me. I'm fine. Don't care. And also I'm dressed properly. That's kind of useful too. Life's too short to ride naked. And if you ride naked, your life will probably be cut short. That's my take on it. So yeah, that is all today. I got some additional resources. I'll make these slides available, I guess, as a PDF or something like that, if anyone's interested. But we do have some great Facebook groups and 17 steps for riding. This is some good basic stuff. There are my friends at Clearwater Lights in Rancho Cordova, California. Made in the United States lights. There's a lot of other lights, but I like these guys because they pretty much outfit every police force in Asia with their lights. And they are certified like waterproof and can withstand humidity. That's the reason why I go with these guys. And they are made in California. So like, who touched your lights. It's not made from some random factory where, they could have rushed production or have recalls. These guys know what the heck they're doing, and it's expensive, but it's worth it. But yeah, that is pretty much all I got today. I appreciate everyone who's either watching or following in here, and hopefully I might have left a little nugget of information here or there, and maybe got you interested in learning more about this. I mean, everyone's got a thing, and for me, it's long distance riding. For some people, it's something else. It's all about what makes you happy, and regardless if it involves two motorcycles or crocheting or underwater basket weaving, or I don't even care what you do. Just do it. Make yourself happy. It's that's why you do it. So with that being said, I am going to sign off for this evening here. Thank you to Carla for showing up here. And Carla, a little bit about her is she rides a Goldwing. She's had a couple Goldwings. She rides a lot too. And she's done, you said 2 of them, right? Yeah, she's done 2 of these rides. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to know, like I said, you can do it. It's just a matter of getting and doing the planning and getting it all outgoing. So, all right. So yeah, everyone, thank you for watching. I will see you on the road. Rubber side down, wear your helmet, please. And don't take a beat of the forehead. True story. I had like this side of my head was swollen for like a week because it got me stinger first. I'm like, you asshole. I didn't like that. Yeah. Okay. Sayonara. Thank you. And safe riding, safe long distance riding. And if this garners enough traction, maybe I'll do another lecture. Who knows? This might be fun. All right. Thank you.